We are still 4 days away from the start of the 2024 Stanley Cup Final. That's Saturday in Sunrise between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. But we will break down each and every angle that you need to know for the Cup Final. Edmonton trying to bring back Lord Stanley's Cup to the Great White North. Florida into the Stanley Cup Final for a second consecutive year. Last year, the Panthers losing out to the Vegas Golden Knights. This year, Florida looking to triumph on top. We welcome in Joe Madden, live right here to this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid to help us get ready for everything we need to know for the Stanley Cup Final here in 2024. Joe, as always, we appreciate the time here on this Tuesday morning.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to start looking at the Stanley Cup Finals here. It's going to be absolutely war, and I can hardly wait for that puck to drop.
Joe, before we dive into the specific matchup between Edmonton and Florida, let's take a look back on how we reached this point in the Stanley Cup postseason. Edmonton out of the West, second best price to win the Western Conference crown before the year got started. Florida back into the Stanley Cup Final, but last year it was unexpected, coming out of nowhere as the 8th seed to reach all the way to the Cup Final. When you look at the playoff bracket around the National Hockey League this season, to see the Oilers face off against the Panthers, did you expect this, or did it surprise you more than anything?
It really did surprise me here, especially out of the Western Conference. You look at the Edmonton Oilers, and I'll be the first to eat my words. I didn't think Stuart Skinner could get the Edmonton Oilers here, but he played 3 fantastic, and I'm talking lights out games in those last 3 games versus the Dallas Stars. During the rest of those games, he was pretty solid. We know he was benched once out there, but Stuart Skinner has really impressed me so far in the playoffs. I'm hoping he can continue that style of play into the finals here. And then out of the Eastern Conference, I really did think it was a coin flip between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers, both of those teams having so many strengths on both sides of the puck. So I'm happy to see the Florida Panthers here. They absolutely deserve it. And this team is so hungry out there, you guys.
Joe, 2 championship series about to get underway this week. The NBA starts on Thursday night. The NHL starts on Saturday. In the NBA, we have over a $2 price tag here on the Boston Celtics, so it looks like they probably should win that series. But we take a look at hockey, a minus 128 price this morning for the Florida Panthers to win the series over the Edmonton Oilers. And if we're taking a look at that, minus 1.5 price, plus 160 here on the Florida Panthers for the Edmonton Oilers. You take the game and a half, it's a minus 200 price. How are we feeling? And also, do we agree that the Florida Panthers should be the favorite in this series?
I absolutely agree. The Florida Panthers should be the favorite in this series at minus 130. It is a little juicy here, but I do think they can get this done in 6 or 7 over the Edmonton Oilers. This isn't going to come easy, though, and I do think if it wasn't for Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard, those big names on the Edmonton Oilers, you look at the rest of the team, and they don't have the depth that I really wanted to see. Now, this team has played absolutely fantastic, but I look at Florida's way of grinding down teams. And while Edmonton might get up early in these games, and I think it's a perfect situation for live betting, with the Florida Panthers coming back, I just don't see that 3 periods of play that they will be able to withstand the Florida Panthers.
So, Joe, you saw those odds right there in terms of the series total games, the duration of this 2024 Stanley Cup Final, plus 194. Technically, the shortest number is for this to go the distance and reach a 7th game, but plus 198 is 6 games as well. How competitive do you expect this Cup Final to be, and what it means overall for the entirety of the duration of this Cup Final?
I expect it to be complete war out there, Ben. I'm looking for these teams to go back and forth, trade wins and losses. Now, this travel is going to start to grind them down. It'll be interesting to see which team can fare better with that. But this does go 6 or 7, in my opinion. This isn't going to come easy for either of these teams unless one of these goaltenders really falls off a cliff here. I can't see it happening. And when we do look at the goalies right now, I do think Skinner has shown the better performance than Bobrovsky has. Bobrovsky hasn't had the work that Skinner has had to face. So This is going to come down to the defenses. If Edmonton continue to play that style of defense, we know we have hot offenses on both sides of the puck, but this is going to be a hard-hitting game. You look at Sam Bennett, already 53 hits in the postseason here. He's going to be coming after Connor McDavid, and we know Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have the ability to score on the best goaltenders out there. So that tandem is absolutely fantastic. You look at Corey Perry, this is his 5th Stanley Cup appearances with the 5th team here. He has that veteran presence. He's going to be building this team up. And then the Panthers, they have so many playmakers over there. So this isn't going to come easy to either of these teams. It goes 6 or at least 7.
Joe, we got some pretty good parity here if we take a look at the Conn Smythe Trophy numbers. You're taking a look at 6 players at a 10-1 or less price. That's Bouchard, Draisaitl, Tkachuk, Bobrovsky, Barkov, and McDavid here. And obviously McDavid on the front end of that spectrum at a plus 220 price. But also keep in mind, his team not the favorites to win the Stanley Cup Final. If you had to place a wager on who's going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy right now, who would it be, Joe?
You know what? Only once in history has a losing team seen the winner of the Conn Smythe be their team. So Connor McDavid, you know the superstar level he's at. Would I be shocked if the Florida Panthers win this and he gets a Conn Smythe? Absolutely not. At plus 220, I would put a little bit of money on that. If Edmonton comes out and wins this cup, though, I really do think, while it is pretty hard for us to make a case for Stuart Skinner, at plus 24,000 for Stuart Skinner here, he's going to win them this cup. If he can stand on his head like he did versus the Dallas Stars, at plus 24,000, that would be my look. For the Florida Panthers, though, I really struggle with why Barkov is listed as the favorite for that team. I think Matthew Tkachuk, he comes into this Stanley Cup Finals on a different level. I think he's going to be a huge playmaker, already 19 points in the playoffs.
Sam Reinhart for this series at 55-1, and no love for Donnie's guy, even in Donnie's pitch. Donnie Draisaitl for his cousin Leon at plus 850. They're that second best price for Edmonton. But Connor McDavid is the favorite. Oftentimes, Joe, in sports, an individual can transcend even team success. But here the Edmonton Oilers are on the brink of winning a Stanley Cup, and Connor McDavid is into a cup final. Finally, 5 goals throughout this playoff run, but 26 assists so far in the postseason for the Oilers. The best player in the National Hockey League, now on the most significant of stages. Will Connor McDavid match that stage here in the Stanley Cup Final?
You know what? He absolutely could. Connor McDavid is such a lights-out player out there. He's going to be the difference maker. Now, I think if you're going to bet on Connor McDavid, you go big. 15-plus points in the playoffs is going to be so phenomenally hard because those goals aren't going to be easy. That's coming in at plus 870. But if you think he can tie Wayne Gretzky's record, he needs 16 points to hit 47 points in the postseason. That's coming in at plus 1,400. I'd rather put a sprinkle on that the more I dig into these numbers. I do think Connor McDavid, he has a big game. I do think there's going to be 1 or 2 games here where these goaltenders get hit hard and Connor McDavid gets 3 or 4 points in it. So if we can get that at 47 points for his total points, he's got 31, needs 16, you guys, at plus 1,400. To beat Wayne Gretzky, he needs 48 points.
Overtime hockey, Joe, we love it, specifically in the playoffs and the Stanley Cup Finals. You take a look at some of these fun betting markets here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. If we get 2 or more overtime games, plus 145, 3 or more overtime games at a plus 650 price. Any thoughts on this series being close? And also, will we see multiple overtimes?
I absolutely love this bet. I think it's the best bet of the series. Looking at 2+ overtimes during the series here, coming in at plus 145. Now, I do think you can ladder it up to 3+. I feel more comfortable with the 2, but a bet that I like better than the 3+ is 1 game to reach double overtime here. That's coming in at plus 390. I do think this is such a tight battle in a couple of these games. We will get that double overtime. If you think it can happen twice, it's a huge long shot, but it's plus 4,400, you guys. I'm so tempted to hit it.
You see a lot of parity in those Stanley Cup odds. It is expected to be close, and it starts on Saturday in Sunrise between the Panthers and the Oilers. Joe Madden, thank you for your breakdown and your preview of the 2024 Cup Final.